Hello, everybody. This is Joe Brown with USFT Sports. This is the Real Game Unplugged. We're going to talk about things in the sports world, but specifically, we're going to talk about soccer and what's happening now, certainly bringing up to the World Cup. Today, I got Jason O'Keefe on. Jason, I've watched his career grow back from the Greensboro days and the Dynamo days, and he was with Greensboro College. And his trek that going up has been incredible because he's been at so many universities with big names, whether it's North Carolina, whether it's St. Louis, worked at GC, worked with my son. He's been around the game at the Division I to Division III level, but mostly Division I. He was at App State, had a successful turnaround, and obviously they had some the way that they canceled the program was kind of shocking because it was the oldest NCAA Division I program in the country. He's involved in pre-professional clubs and getting kids to different places around the world. But there's nothing that he hasn't done in the game. And I want him to be one of the resources that our parents, our players, clubs, families, things that we can bring to the table. And when you go to usftsports.org, you can go and check his bio out. You can go to the bottom of the first page and hit the Facebook like. But we're just really getting ourselves out there now. We had the soft launch. Now we're doing the hard launch, and we'll have our our podcast series going into the World Cup, really introducing everybody and just talking about the game and the current events about the game. So, Jason, welcome this morning. I appreciate you coming on. I know you're busy. He's right now the associate head coach at University of North Carolina, Greensboro, Division I program that has a very, very good track record. And he's been in from spring season all the way into getting ready now and preparing for the fall, running around the country and abroad, trying to figure out the pieces of the puzzle that they have to put together in that program. So welcome, Jason. How you doing, brother?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Joe. Excited to be on. Thanks for the introduction.
Did I miss anything?
No, you nailed just about everything.
All right.
For 20 years, my focus has been, teaching education through soccer, holistic development of young men, young women a little bit in the club space, but more focused on the male side. The last 6 years of my journey has taken me a couple different places I didn't think I'd go. I'm a FIFA licensed agent as well. I own a small shop with a partner of mine where we currently represent pro guys. He's still looking for new business. As Joe mentioned, I've pivoted back into the college space, which is where my love is and passion. But I've launched an NPSL team with a business partner of mine and a strong ownership group in Boone, North Carolina. We got a game tonight. We kick off our first USL season against Asheville City, one of the studs of the league. So we're going to jump into the fire, but excited about a new path there. The youth club in Boone has kind of grown, and we've increased our partnership where they're going to become Appalachian FC Youth and Academy. So that's more exciting soccer news and growth in the high country of North Carolina. But yeah, as Joe mentioned, I've done a lot of things. I don't know if I've done everything you can do. I want to win a national championship. That's still out there. But yeah, I've been blessed to be around great people, from Joe mentioned back in the day with him and Rusty Scarborough, Steve Allison, into working with Jay Vidovich at Wake Forest. Got a doctorate in soccer. Mike McGinty at St. Louis, the doors and the network that open up at a place like that with Olympians and World Cup participants and national champions has really driven things in my career to continue to strive to put yourself in good arenas. And obviously this environment is another kind of step in that direction. The team that Joe's put together is amazing. Basically touches every piece of a player's development holistically from A to Z. And we're excited to be a small part of that. But yeah, excited. It's a great time for soccer in this country and in this world.
So let's talk about your team that, you got involved in the NPSL, you moved up into the USL2, a little bit different change, but the pre-professional clubs. Certainly when I look back at the Dynamo days, how the landscape has changed, especially in the state of North Carolina, there's a lot of teams a lot of options for players. One of the things that I like doing is helping these clubs that don't actually know what they're doing. They just get into the game, and you've probably seen this, and they don't have coolers on the bench, and the scoreboard don't work, and it's an extension of maybe a parent that wants to do it. And no matter what level you're at, when you are a senior team, okay, you have to act professional, right? I've seen guys get involved in this that have lost their homes. I've seen guys go broke. I've seen guys that do it for the wrong reasons. And I also see teams that get into these leagues and they get announced that they got a new team in February and they got to play in May. And it's like there's not enough time, there's not enough runway to actually have a great success story long term. And they don't set their foundation with their corporate partners. They don't set their foundation. Some of these teams get into these leagues, they don't even have stadiums. And then you're fighting. And when it's scheduling time, they don't even know where they're going to play, which disrupts everybody in the league because our budgets are about travel, or our budget's about the wear and tear on the players. I think nice thing about it, back in the Dynamo days, we only had 4 or 5 teams maybe in the whole state. Now it's a clogged up situation. I think Myrtle Beach is a low hanging fruit market right now. But I look at some of the teams and I look at the owners and the people that are running it, and it's in an extension from the senior team down, or it's an extension from the youth club where the youth kids are actually paying the fees for some of these kids. I don't know. Like when we were in the PDL and I took them out of the A League down to the PDL, we had better players because we had all the Wake boys. We had the Chapel Hill. We had some studs that got drafted immediately. And Greensboro was not an A-League market, a AAA baseball type market. I think they found the magic there. But most of the time when people leave the clubs and the new people take over, they go away because they don't understand it and they don't maintain what has been going on. So from the early days and where you're at now, what are the biggest challenges that you have? Because the players are different than when I had the Sammy Cronins. Do you know what I mean? When I had, I had Jamie Franks, and I had Shannon Williams and Shea Celine. I had some unbelievable players that were on their way up. I knew they were going to get drafted. It's changed. So now, what's the challenge that you have, because you're in a marketplace where you have to bring people into that part of North Carolina?
Yeah. I mean, look, we were created out of a tragic situation, as you mentioned, the global pandemic, Appalachians State University decision to cut men's soccer. So the club was created sort of like a phoenix in the ashes and rising, right? There was no men's team for the community of the alumni, right? The
Right.
alumni came back to watch their team, and they don't have that opportunity. So when we created it, it was really out of a community grassroots feel. You're certainly right. There's a wide spectrum of ownership groups and business plans and people who do it for what reason. I was blessed to have our kind of leader in Michael Hitchcock, and we'll have to get him on the podcast one day. He's done everything you can do in the game of soccer, right?
Yep.
He was the guy that was, when I got the job, hey, what do you think about an MPSL team? And I'm like, man, I'm neck deep in this rebuild. I'm not even sure I know what MPSL stands for, but however I can help. And it kind of led to, me recruiting his son, even though I knew he would go to VCU like his dad did,
Yeah.
which is who I met through one of my high school buddies who played with him. But, came up, saw it, introduced him to some business folks, kind of went nowhere. His son committed to VCU, and then they cut the program in the middle of a pandemic. And he was a guy I was really leaning on as to what's next. And he was probably the only person who said, you're going to be a head coach again someday. You'll just be out of market. You'll manage it like I do out of marketplace. He ends up, he's got probably 18 teams across the United States in various leagues, been wildly successful, was at DC ticket sales when the league formed off the back of the 94 World Cup. he had the best product to sell, the best players, the most winningest franchise. That led him to Colorado. Kroenke hired him to come out there, be his director. Went from there to be the assistant GM and vice president with uh, a Greensboro legend and Doug Hamilton,
Dougie
God rest
Brown.
his soul, and
Yeah.
was his right hand man when they brought Beckham over to
Yeah.
LA, which then spawned the Hunts to say, hey, we want to build something in Dallas and we want you to be our guy. So he's done everything you can possibly do. And he's one of those guys, every time I speak to him, I feel like I got smarter. But he had the blueprint. He called it this pandemic business model. So it was obviously, my job to build out an ownership group in town. Criteria was run good business in town, have a passion for sports, if soccer, even better, and then people who love the high country, right?
Yeah.
And that was pretty easy. I think it was a week. I probably had 15 calls, and I called him and I said, man, you better get up here because there's some serious interest in ownership, sponsorship, ticket sales,
Yeah.
you name it. People are excited. So we launched November of 20
Yeah.
and then kicked the ball in May of 21, which in a normal sphere, that would probably have been a short runway. But with the pandemic and kind of everybody could put some focus and time and energy because we were all stuck at home, we could pull it off. But the MPSL is a fantastic league. Was a great launching pad for us. We competed for 5 years. We won a couple of championships. We competed in a couple Open Cups. And it's funny you mentioned like a lot of people that first go around, they're like Open Cup. Oh my gosh! Like, are we going to go? Become USL? Or I'm like, whoa, we're gonna. Our whole
Walking
focus
trigger.
was we're gonna crawl, and then we're gonna walk, and then we're gonna
Yeah.
stroll, and then we're gonna
Yeah.
jog, and then we're going to run, and then we're going to maybe be sprinting. And it feels like, to be honest, the first year we did all of it, and I kept going like, uh-oh, it's going a little fast here. But
Yep.
it's been a great blessing, unbelievable growth in the high country. But also, as you mentioned, North Carolina. I mean, we're in the USL2 Carolinas division, basically, and it's everywhere from Asheville to Boone to Hickory to Winston-Salem to Greensboro to Charlotte to Raleigh out to the
Wilmington.
East Coast and Wilmington. So it's a phenomenal league. I think one of the toughest divisions in the country.
For sure.
And, it's just brought soccer throughout the whole state, and it's really ignited it, which is great because North Carolina's long been the home of college soccer
Yep.
with the ACC right here. You got the SoCon, you've got the Big South,
South.
a
Yeah.
lot of great Division I soccer programs, men's and women's, that have really kind of been a touch point, a map for a lot of people.
Who would want to play in North Carolina coming out of the Northeast or the cold areas? Now, North Carolina is an absolute gift.
Yep.
When I mean, just being an in-state. When I lived in Greensboro and Nicole went to App State, that was the best deal I ever had, being an in-state parent. I mean,
Yep.
we have some great advantages for our student athletes in North Carolina. I mean, it's unbelievable. And I think the biggest thing is, like back in my Delaware days, why we got 4,000 people pre-MLS days? Because there wasn't much to do, right? We were
Right.
the entertainment, right? And, where you're at now, you can make an impact because you are family entertainment. And, all of us that don't take advantage of using this World Cup as a marketing piece are crazy, right?
Yeah.
So, so looking into, how that goes, talking about the USL and the NPSL and the UPSL, all this stuff is going crazy because a lot of people that are in the NPSL and the UPSL, they were just pissed off people and they broke off from the USL. They didn't like it, right? And that's what happens with even youth sports. All this stuff breaks off because someone thinks they can do it better, and we just got a mess. The pay-to-play program, which is not going to change, is an absolute mess. The pay-to-stay in tournaments, which Congress is going to get involved in now, that is absolutely out of control. When you played, and talking to Chris on his podcast, you guys came out from a hotbed of soccer in this country. We could play matches. We could just drive an hour in the Beltway, and you had
Right.
unbelievable games, right? The game has just
Right.
changed so much. And we have a lot of these kids traveling to California, and they're playing a team that's an hour away from them on the East Coast. So as a college coach, it's kind of frustrating, I'm sure, because sometimes you can make a trip and you see somebody that's in your backyard already. And then with when I look at we're going to go into the college stuff now. When you guys are, recruiting has changed, because the rules have changed and consistently changed with the NIL, how programs are, and even in Division III schools, which we all have been involved in Division III schools, is I don't know if some schools will be there for 4 years. We had 2 closed in South Carolina. When kids are looking, you really got to look at what's the longevity and the finances of these schools, because it doesn't matter where you play when you have 6% playing college soccer, period, and 1.5 at the most playing Division I, right? You really got to study it. You got to start early, and you have to get resources and listen to people that you trust and are honest. A lot of people listen to parents. Parents talk, and again, nobody cares, what Susie's doing or Johnny down the street. You really have to take your journey and your narrative and create it, because you are completely different. And so when I look
Yeah.
at, the NCAA world that you're in now, where it was even 5 years ago, how has it changed?
Yeah, you hit it on one. NIL has changed. The portal is
Yeah.
completely turned it upside down. I mean, I would say 10 years ago when I arrived at Chapel Hill, I realized this is not amateur sports anymore. This is a big business. And it's still, in my opinion, a wonderfully developmental time in these young players' lives, which shapes them, right? It shaped me, it shaped you. It shapes them, and it's such a critical time. Um, and there are some good things with these changes. Change is hard on everyone, always is. But if you lean into it and you can really figure out how do I get better because of this, then you can navigate it, and the tides rise all boats.
Yeah.
If you don't, then you sink, right?
Yeah.
And you drown. And unfortunately, you see parents mainly. I'm a parent now. You're a parent.
Yeah.
You've been through the processes, but I'm just witnessing a Saturday afternoon game with my son who's 11. The parents are they're just so wildly ignorant and uneducated about soccer and the pathways. It's like me going into my dentist and saying, "Hey, I got a sore here. Can you go ahead and root canal this and then take this out and do that?" Like, I would never do that. But
Right.
parents will be on the sideline telling their kid what to do, and then they'll be saying, "Oh, well, we got to go to this club, and oh, we got to go to this event, and then Billy's going to this college, and I need to look." I tell parents all the time, for as long as I've been in the game, find the right fit for your child,
Yeah.
right? Because if you do that, they'll be comfortable, they'll be excited, they will go on and thrive and have great success. If you're going there because Sally or Billy's going there, or you're going there because it's the biggest school, or they give you the most shoes or the most money, chances are you're going to be setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
And more importantly, setting your child up for failure, right? I think people say it all the time. It's parents, referees, and coaches that muddy the game up or confuse it for everyone, because it's a kid's game. It's why we all love it. It's a player's game.
Hey, when we
We,
were younger, if you took the parents, the referees, and the coaches, and you put 22 kids out on a park, the pecking order would create itself. They'd have
yep,
fun. They pick their teams. Off they go and play.
yep,
And when I grew up, I had to wait for the older guys to go in for dinner. I'm a little older than you, and then you got time on the basketball court or whatever, the baseball,
yep,
whatever it was.
yeah,
You
yeah,
learn from your older siblings or your friends' older brothers. You learn in a different way. Everything's really clinical,
yep.
and I don't think players are spending time on the ball by themselves. I only work when I go to practice. Well, if you're going to a
Right.
club that's 3 days a week, it's still not enough. What are you doing to really improve yourself? where are you getting your advice? Where are you getting someone that could put a matrix together for you and say, these are things that you have to do, certainly in different gateways in their age, right? Because some of the
Yeah.
kids, you can't make decisions that are effective. You technically can't do it. You can't autocorrect, all of these things they don't understand. And again, the best players sometimes on some of your youth club teams, they're not going to grow because they're not getting challenged, but that coach and that club needs them to win games, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
what's the environment that's going to push them, right? And make them
Yep.
a little bit different. And when you're talking about the NCAA 1 level, which you're very familiar with, it's a whole different character of a person that you have to have, because we want them to stay for 4. We want them to love the school, because I tell them, love the school, because if you get a career ending injury, you must love the school. Or maybe the coaches change. Maybe you didn't do your homework and you came in as a player that was a goalkeeper and they had 2 stud goalkeepers that were freshmen and sophomores. You're not getting in, right?
Right.
Do your
Right.
homework. Find out what the infirmary's like. Find out what, if parents can get to Parents' Day without spending a fortune. A lot of the East Coast kids, they get happy when we go to the West Coast, but I tell the parents, I'm like, do you know how much it's going to cost you? Especially if you have one child and they've been in a cotton box their whole life. You can't get out there when they're sick. You can't get out there if
Right.
something happens. So you got to make life decisions when you're putting your kid in a place, and then you got to trust the coach, because a lot of the times they don't call me back. I went to an ID session and they didn't call me back, or I went to this showcase tournament. Well, showcase tournaments to me, I think, are bullshit in a lot of ways, because I believe that I know that you have absolute programs out of MLS Next and out of ECNL that records every touch a kid plays during a season, right? So you can actually evaluate a kid, because on game 3 in a tournament of a trophy tournament, that means nothing. Because when we grew up, McGuire Cup was the dog. And then you had when you went to tournament, it had a stake in it. Now everybody has tournaments, right? So they're playing more games and actually developing. And so as a college coach, you have more resources than you had in the day,
Yep.
and knowing that player, especially if you can't touch them, or saving budgets to go in recruiting. But it also gives you a chance to go to some places that aren't mainstream, overseas, the Caribbean, Canada, whatever it might be. So the game has changed. And what you just said, when you got at Chapel Hill, this is professional. What has happened is college is professional. High schools are colleges. I mean, I'm talking to the guys at Charlotte Christian, which I think Stephen Curry played basketball there, right? It's the prep school that's in Charlotte, but they're building like an $8 million basketball arena. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's changed, right? It's
Yeah.
not a school gym anymore, right?
Right.
And then
Right.
I look at some of the schools in football in Florida and in Texas, their stadiums are off the hook, right?
Right.
So high school is going college, and college now is going professional, right?
Yeah.
And then you got to get yourself into the pros. So you're teaching in both of your spheres, right? With the app team and at the Division 1, you're preparing not just life lessons for them to be great citizens and great people, but you're preparing them for the next level, no matter what it might be. And
Right.
and sometimes, even with the pre-professional clubs here, and it with your agency, sometimes it's better for a kid to go over and play in 3rd division in Europe and move up the ladder than go to some of these bad pre-professional clubs. And I used to say semi-pro, but they're really pre-professional clubs, but they're not getting anything out of it. The one thing that I was blessed with was I didn't have to worry about housing. I had players that were ballsy coming to Greensboro, right? I mean, we were the only guys in town, right?
Right.
And I had ownership that was amazing, that they didn't have to pay. They got their per diems on the road. They had, we had a great, when we lost in the A-League final and lost $1 million, and I said to Neil when I came in there, I'm like, this is not a town that's a AAA town. We need to bring it on down, right? And I figured out we have better players than me bringing MLS players that are broken down and a pain in the ass, right? Now I wanted guys going up the ladder, and we had great success. We had 8 guys drafted in the 1st round from one of the teams. all I could do was mess it up. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, these guys could ball. And when you have Elmar and Jay and all those guys coaching these kids, they were exceptional. But my deal with them was always, if the kid gets tweaked in the summer with us, I'm sending him home. I'm
Right.
not sending them back broken, which a lot of these people do, to their colleges, right? You got to be part of their ecosystem, because their job, a lot of those kids' job was to graduate in December and get ready for the draft, right? And so things have changed. Now I think the teams diluted across the board. I think the teams that are going to do well are the ones that focus on being professional,
Yes.
being a professional environment, a professional club. So, getting into, we talked about the Division One. You love your job. You're back home in the borough, right?
Yep.
And how's recruiting going for you? And how's the team look like going into next year? Because they had a good year last year.
Yeah, great year. Since Chris has been there, they've been to a couple of Elite Eights, a couple of Sweet 16s. He's really, taken a storied program, and you and I both know all the players through the history, the
Oh,
Japs, the Haupties, Darren Powell,
Scotty Jones, Darren Powell. Yeah,
Scotty Jones, Randy Patterson. I mean,
yeah,
it's got a long, long list, right? But he's really been able to, in this new environment, capitalize on some things. But it's good. They went to the Sweet 16. They had 8 guys go on and sign their first professional contract from December through March. So there was a lot of, need, right? So we've been busy domestically, internationally, and now the portal is closing Friday.
yeah,
So everybody's got to be in there, and then they can continue to communicate and search. But it's a little bit of a fool's gold. You've got hundreds of near 1,000 players in there yearly, and there's just not that much opportunity. And this year is my first kind of real go around. The first couple of years coming out of the pandemic, where I was, it wasn't a big piece of what we did, but it's grown amazingly, challengingly, 10 times different over the last 3 to 4 years, where what I'm hearing is like this year, it's supply and demand, right? There
yeah,
were not a ton, if any, elite college players. So what happens? Really good players get paid like elite players,
right.
right? To come to new schools. So it's been an interesting time, but yeah, we're close to finalizing the roster. We're excited about it. Another tremendous schedule. It'll be a top 10 strength of schedule. We're going to host West Virginia, Marshall, NC State, VCU, San Francisco, just to name a few.
Yeah,
But it's going to be an awesome time. The fall is the best time of the year for me. Coming off the back of a World Cup, I mean, you can't imagine the hype and the energy around the game coming into the fall. So it'll be really none like we've seen since the fall of '95, really.
yeah. So let's talk. Let's finish up with, because I always finish up with the World Cup with everybody that I'm talking to. And my question to them is, okay, what's your thoughts about the team? And stadium's done. It's closed up. Last game's done. Trophies given out. It's all dispersed. The stadiums are getting cleaned up. All of it. It's just that Tuesday at the water cooler, right? It's all finished. Our men's national team craps the bed, or our national team does really well. And to me, getting out of the group is not successful. Right now, with what the resources that we have, I think they should have one more step at least than just getting out of the group, right? For me, that's my opinion, right?
Yep.
What does it look like? What do you think about the team? And then what does it look like if we have success or we crap the bed?
Yeah, I think we're gonna see a positive influx in growth, expansion, investment, regardless of how our team does, because it's going to be the biggest event this continent has ever hosted, and that from a global marketing, branding, financial is going to have an impact. I think if our team does get out of the group, it goes higher. If they do win a game outside the group, it goes higher. I've always been a firm believer that until we have a marquee showing a Final Four, a semifinal, win a World Cup, which I hope happens in our lifetime,
Yeah.
then it would be on fire. But our gifts are our curses too, right? Our size and our money, it doesn't solve every problem, and sometimes it convolutes and makes things more cloudy, right? Why a country like Belgium can scour that country and the globe and find every nook and cranny with their 100 scout system because their country's smaller,
Yeah.
right? They don't need to cover the territory that we have, and
We
it's
don't
going to
have
be a
100. We don't
challenge,
have 100 scouts.
right? I would say you're probably right. We don't, but if you catalog the U.S. scouts into MLS scouts, it's growing, right?
Yeah.
Over the last 5 years, MLS teams are investing in it more. The national team is investing in it more, and hopefully we can see the benefits. I'm
We,
I'm optimistic about our group though. I think it is the golden generation. It's the best group we've ever put out. We're going to be on home soil. We'll see what happens. But I think we have more U.S. players playing in the top 5 leagues, winning big trophies and gaining experiences. Now, does Pochettino be able to put that puzzle piece together in time to capitalize? I don't know.
yeah.
But I'm optimistic. I'm super excited about the World Cup. I'm super excited to see our team perform, support them greatly.
Yeah.
Um, and I would love it to be a breakout cup. But if it doesn't, I think there's still going to be benefits for the U.S. soccer market.
Yeah. And for me, to me, it's a gifted group of players.
Yeah.
If I could put that group of players in the mentality of a couple of the teams in the past, no brainer, right?
Yeah.
It's because they were dog fighters.
Yeah.
You look at some of the players we had in the past in our national team, that badge meant everything because they weren't making millions in Europe. It was a whole
Right.
different mentality.
Right.
Because no matter what the result is, they're millionaires right now, right? Back in the day, it was a whole different story. So the
Right.
mentality, how they're going to do it, and then again, you're absolutely right. Corporate America, if they do well, the corporate America, the corporate partners are going to be excited. If they bail out early, they lose money. No
Yeah.
question about it, right? Because we don't want to watch other teams in our country. We have to, right?
Yeah.
So, but no, I'm really happy we got together. We're going to do this again. I wanted to get you some FaceTime with you so when people can see us in their living rooms on YouTube, they can actually hear from us. They need to see our faces and understand our personality sets, our skill sets, but also understand the team that we're putting together to help these families, these players, that are going on every ladder, every gateway, and then coaches that want to get involved with us, that we can help them because a lot of coaches aren't going to national schools anymore. It's too long. It costs money. A lot of the youth clubs don't have internal coaching systems. Most of the youth clubs have, I don't care if you have a 3,000 or a 10,000 member youth club, probably the top 10 guys are really, really good. And then they have facilitators and the tea gets diluted, right? So kids get lost. And then some kids get lost just by being in the same market. They could be a great player in another marketplace. Sometimes your environment that you change, even coaching, when you go to a new environment, you get excited and you have new challenges, right?
Yeah.
So these are things I want to talk to about parents and things that I want people to know that if they have questions, they can call us because we can give them our story. We all have a paragraph. So
Yeah.
thank you for joining us this morning. And I'm sure I'll touch base with you soon and tell you about some more exciting things that we're doing with the company. And I wish you luck and I'll talk to you
Yeah.
soon. I appreciate you.
Yeah,
This
Joe. Thank
is
you.
this is the Real Game Unplugged by USFT Sports. This is another episode of our series going to the World Cup. Again, please join us. Please look at our Facebook and you'll know the things that were going on. All right. Talk to you, Jason. I'll see you later, Coach. Thanks, man. Cheers.
Yeah, buddy.
Bye.